Hello. Welcome to the True Crime Lounge. My name is Breezy, and here we talk true crime. That's right. This is the YouTube to my podcast, which you can find on Spotify and YouTube as well. I also have you can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And I have a Patreon that you can go check out if you would love to support me as well. All right. Also, I have a merch shop you can go check out as well. Now that we have those disclaimers out of the way, let's jump into today's episode of True Crime Lounge. Today, we're going to be talking about some killer siblings, 5 of which I will be talking about in a mini-series on my podcast. I'm going to go ahead and tell you one set of siblings is not on this list, and I'm not going to say which one, but you'll have to find out when I release the miniseries. I don't know when that'll be yet. I just got done with the spooky season miniseries, and season 2 of my podcast is about to come out, and that focuses on criminals of the Wild West. But why don't we get started with today's episode, shall we? Our first set of killer siblings are the Bondurant brothers. Pete and Pat Bondurant are twin brothers who murdered a series of victims in Giles County, Tennessee in the 1980s. In 1986, a 24-year-old woman by the name of Gwen Duggar was reported missing by her family in Ardmore, Alabama. After a lengthy investigation, the brothers were arrested for a murder. At their trial, Pat's wife came forward and testified that she had witnessed the two brothers rape, torture, and murder Duggar. Her body was burnt and left at Elk River. Despite the lack of physical remains, the brothers were convicted of second-degree murder and given a sentence of 25 years in prison. During the investigation of their parents' house in Pulaski, Tennessee, I'm only 40 minutes from Pulaski. Well, I am now, but I just moved to Tennessee back in June, so. But anyway, their parents, a collection of human fragments were discovered. Their evidence was compared in the launch of a series of investigations, and as a result of which, brothers were convicted of separate murders. Pat Bonner was found guilty of murdering his co-worker, Ronnie Gaines, who was beaten to death and buried on the property. At trial, Pete was charged with helping his brother dismember the body. In a different trial, Pete was convicted of killing his girlfriend, Terry Lynn Clark. Currently, the twins are jailed in Tennessee's Riverbend Maximum Security Prison. And the brothers have been featured on the TV show Evil Twins. Number 2, the Raines brothers. Larry and Danny Raines are siblings who became serial killers at different times in their life. So, the Raines brothers are rarely mentioned in articles and examine the most notorious murders and the events. Oh, I know that just for some reason. Started in 1964 when 19-year-old Larry Raines was fatally shot a man by the name of Gary Smock in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Over the next 2 months, Larry robbed and killed a total of 5 people, and by May 1964, he confessed his crime and was arrested. Despite his confession of 5 murders, the state tried Larry only for killing a Smock. He pled not guilty for reason of insanity and was sentenced to life in prison. He was later awarded a retrial, but entered a plea of guilty and received a life sentence. In return for the plea, Larry allowed to change his name to Monk Steppenwolf. Okay, I can't. Okay, sorry. Anyway, after the time of his retrial, his brother Danny made international headlines for carrying out a collection of violent murders in Kalamazoo, Michigan. So, March 18, 1972, Danny Raines kidnapped, raped, and murdered a 28-year-old woman named Patricia Hulk. In July, he teamed up with Brent Coaster and he killed a pair of young girls. After Raines and Colster's murder, one more victim, in August 1972, he confessed. He named Danny Raines as his accomplice, and the two were charged with murder. Unlike his brother, Danny never confessed to his crimes, but he was convicted of 4 murders and given to 4 life sentences. In their childhood, the Raines brothers were close, and Danny called Larry the only companion I had most of my life. In a strange twist, Danny's ex-wife went on to marry Larry in prison. Oh my god, that's just gross and weird right there. In 1987, the serial killer brothers were given the pseudonyms Ralph and Tommy Searle in a book published by Conrad Hilberry. Since then, the fake names have been used in some books and online articles. The Carr brothers are coming in at number 3 on our list. So in December 2000, Reginald and Jonathan Carr were out with the notorious killing spree of historian Kansas. One of the most notorious killing sprees in the history of Kansas. These events will begin December 8 when the brothers were robbed and Andrew Schreiber at gunpoint. During the attack, they forced Schreiber to withdraw money from his bank account and ended up letting him go. And Walenta wasn't so lucky. December 11, 2000, the Carr brothers fatally shot the 55-year-old woman as she attempted to flee the scene in her vehicle. December 14th, the Carr brothers broke into a house occupied by 5 young people and proceeded to terrorize them. After entering the home, the brothers were sexually assaulted, and the 2 women assaulted the 2 women, beat the men, forced the couples to perform sexual acts on each other, sodomized one of the victims, and then tied them up in a forced sexual humiliation. The brothers then robbed the group and took the areas of the remote area and shot them in the neck of the heads. After their shootings, the Carr brothers fled the scene, unaware that one girl, identified as HG, had arrived. It was later revealed that the barrette in her hair stopped the trajectory of the bullet. HG described her attackers to the police, and the Carr brothers were arrested and charged with the murders. The event shocked the state of Kansas and became known as the Wichita Horror. Some people were outraged by these murders and were not treated as a hate crime due to the fact that the brothers were black and all the victims were white. I'm not even going to try to figure that one out. Eventually, the Carr brothers were convicted of 113 criminal counts and sentenced to life. Despite the horrific nature of this case, it received that relatively limited U.S. national coverage. As of 2014, the Carr brothers remain on death row. Now, coming in at number 4, we have the Cook brothers, with Anthony and Nathaniel Cook, who carried out a deadly killing spree in the areas of surrounding Toledo, Ohio for 17 months in 1980 to 1981. In 1973, Anthony Cook committed his first murder when he raped and killed a 22-year-old woman named Vicky Smalls. Following the crime, Anthony went to prison in an unrelated burglary charge until 1979. After getting out of the jail, he joined his brother Nathaniel and the two embarked on a murder spree. So, in the early 1980s, Anthony and Nathaniel were employed as truck drivers and spent time traveling between states. In January 1981, the brothers raped and killed a hitchhiker named Connie Sue Thompson. In February, they tortured and killed a 12-year-old girl named Dawn Bax. Bax was kidnapped on her way home and was murdered in the basement of a local theater. My nose itches and I don't know why. Alright. In September 1981, Anthony Cook attacked a couple named Todd Sobo and Leslie Swawicki. I think that's how you pronounce it. During the confrontation, Leslie phoned her father, Peter Swadwick, who arrived at the scene and was fatal. Who shot It was shot dead by Anthony Cook. Anthony was arrested for the murder of Swarig and given 15 years to life in prison. In 1998, 17 years after Anthony Cook was arrested, DNA linked the Cook brothers to a series of crimes and murders across the United States. Nathaniel Cook was finally arrested, and the brothers were taking part in the murders of 9 people. And all the victims were strangled, shot, bludgeoned to death, and were shot with baseball hats and concrete blocks. Anyway, Anthony Cook was implicated on 9 murders, while Nathaniel only admitted taking part in 3. In return for his confession, Nathaniel pleaded guilty to 2 counts of kidnapping, 1 count of attempted murder, and he would be released from prison in 2018. I had to look that up. Anyway, Anthony Cook received an additional sentence of 15 years and life in jail for killing of Thomas Gordon. Number 5, the Otto brothers. In the 1980s, Otto Shankar, I think that's how you pronounce it, I'm terrible with names, operated a large collection of prostitute dens in the city of Chennai, South India. Shankar recruited his closest friends, including his younger brother Mohan, and his brother-in-law Eldon, to build a criminal network in the city area. The group regularly kidnapped a young woman from the streets and forced them into sexual slavery. Their activities caught the attention of authorities after 9 young girls went missing from 6 months span in 1998. In one case, Otto Shankar and Otto Mohan and their accomplices got into a confrontation with 3 men, and as they attempted to remove one of the girls from the brothers, L.B. Red Lodge. In response, Shankar ordered 3 men to be murdered and buried. The families of the victims contacted the police, and task force were organized to help find the perpetrators. The police would track down and Shankar's accomplices, Ari, who helped them locate many criminals to procure testimony against Shankar and his brother Mohan. During the trial, it was revealed that Shankar was responsible for the death of 6 people over a period of 2 years. Inside the house, the police found a collection of photographs of him posing with cooked cops. The evidence sparked an internal investigation, and some of them officers were involved and punished. Shankar later made an escape from prison, and he was recaptured and found guilty of murders. On April 27, 1995, he was hanged in a Salem Central Prison, and in August 1990, Otto Mohan escaped from the Chennai Central Prison, but he was arrested in Pune on June 25, 1992, and he was convicted of 6 murders and was given the murder of a sentence to life in prison, with he currently is serving. Before his death, Shankar made headlines by saying that he kidnapped sexual abuse victims for state politicians. Still does not help his case at all. Number 6. The Briley brothers. In 1979, 3 brothers named Linwood Earl Briley, Anthony Ray Briley, and James Darrell Briley Jr. carried out a deadly killing spree in Richmond, Virginia. When Linwood was 16 years old, he shot and killed an elderly woman named Orlean Christian while she was hanging laundry in her backyard. The death was initially ruled as a heart attack, but the murder investigation was opened up, and they soon found the wound located in the back of her head, and Linwood confessed to the crime. The first attack, carried out by the Briley brothers and their accomplice Duncan Meakin, occurred in March 1979, and they entered the home of William in Virginia, butchered and brutally victimized the victims. The brothers ransacked the house, tied up the butchers, poured live blood on them. Luckily, Williams was able to save himself and his wife. However, over the next 7 months, the people terrorized the city. The Briley brothers preyed on those who were scared by their presence. So in 1979, they were murdered 11 victims and have been suspected of 20 different cases. All of the murders were extremely violent, including blunt force trauma with a baseball bat, gunshot wounds, stabbing with scissors, and other forms of torture. I'm not smiling at that, I promise. Anyway, on October 19, 1979, the Briley brothers came across Harvey Wilkinson and his family. They approached Harvey and eventually convinced him to let them inside the house, and after gaining access to the home, he had been convinced. After gaining access to the home, the brothers murdered the Wilkinson family, including Harvey and his wife Judy Barton, Barton's 5-year-old son, and their unborn baby. The bodies of the family weren't discovered for 3 days, after which the brothers were arrested. At the trial, Meekins testified against the Briley brothers. Linwood and James were given a death sentence, while Anthony received a life in prison. Okay. Oh, my back. Anyway, May 31st, 1984, Linwood and J.B. Briley helped orchestrate a 6-person prison escape in Virginia death row at Mecklenburg Correctional Center. Okay, when I hear Mecklenburg, I always think of Germany. I don't know why, but I wonder if that's a German town, Mecklenburg. It probably is. I know Coleman, Alabama is a German town. I'm getting off topic. But anyway, during the escape, fellow inmates were forced to keep the Briley brothers from murdering and sexually assaulting prison staff. Man, these brothers just don't quit. They were all sociopaths. So the brothers were captured 19 days later and returned on death row. After their escape, their execution was expedited, and the brothers were put to death 1984 and 1985. Number 7, the Ludington brothers. On December 10th, 1977, 2 women shot and killed after leaving the rear entrance of a Forker's Cafe in Newark, Ohio. At the scene, the police discovered a collection of shell casings from a .22 caliber. 2 months later, 3 people were found murdered in a house outside the city in Columbus, Ohio. The victims were shot multiple times in the head and face. At the scene, authorities discovered shells reminiscent of previously attacked murders in Newark. In April 1978, an elderly man named Jenkins T. Jones was killed at his house in Gain, outside Greenville, Ohio. He was shot 6 times, and police found another .22 caliber weapon. You see where I'm going with this, right? Okay. The shells were taken apart in a lab, and the police found a ballistic match for different murders. They concluded that there were serial killers on the loose, and the media labeled the perpetrators as the .22 caliber killers, with $16,000 reward and offered information leading to an arrest. On December 4th, 1978, a 56-year-old man named Joseph Anik was fatally shot in the garage, and police received a break in the case when workers noticed that his stolen credit card was in use. The purchase was made by a 38-year-old man by the name of Gary Ludington. After being interrogated by police, Gary admitted to killing Anik. He was also implicated by his mother, 42-year-old Thaddeus Ludington. Okay, that's just a fun name to say. Thaddeus. Okay, I'm done. In several crimes. Thaddeus was arrested and confessed to taking part in a serious murder with his brother. He told police that the pair would select a victim at random and then shoot them with a .22 caliber pistol, equipped with a homemade silencer. At the trial, Gary was found guilty and on 8 counts of murder and sentenced to 8 counts of consecutive life terms. Thaddeus received a life sentence. received 6 life sentences, and after their imprisonment, neither of his brothers talked to me about their motive for the murder spree. So in 1989, Thaddeus died of lung cancer, and Gary followed him in 2004. Number 8, the Maloney brothers. It sounds like a Hawaiian. That sounds like something from Hawaii, but it's not. So, in April 2007, brothers named Mika, Fabian, and Stefan Maloney went on a murder spree in Luano Valley in Makusha district of Zambia. The motives behind the event was unclear, and the brothers soon felt the heat for their crimes. In 2012, the government of Zambia was forced to send troops to the area to hunt down the killers. The Maloney brothers murdered the victims of people in primitive weapons such as spears and bows, and the brothers took advantage of their extensive knowledge in surrounding terrain to evade the police. And their political leaders of Luano Valley were in intense pressure to apprehend the killers. During the manhunt, the brothers' mother was forced to flee to her house after an angry mob burned it down and threatened to kill her. Like, come on, guys, just turn yourself in at this point, right? You would assume. But during their lengthy manhunt, she would later explain her son's behavior was strange. Strange behavior began after they visited a witch doctor, in which the speculation that the brothers were cursed. Or your sons are just psychopaths. In June 2013, the brothers were gunned down by a team of Zambia Army commandos, and the brothers were displayed and photographed. After the news were made to the public, the citizens of the valley was May finally able to return home after fleeing for fear of violence. Number 10, the Shin brothers. Two of the most notorious brothers are Shin Changapin and Chen Changpin. I do apologize, I am terrible with names, so I've been practicing, I'm just terrible at names. So please excuse me and don't kill me in the comments for that. But the brothers grew up on a farm in the province of Henan, China, after which they were part of the auto parts business in Zhangzhou, Lanchao. However, the company soon failed and they turned to murder to make money. In September 1999, Chang Ham committed his first murder in Horigia County. In 2003, the brothers stepped up their game and began murdering women found at nightclubs and bathhouses. First, it was a prostitute by Ya Fang, I think that's how you pronounce it. Again, I'm sorry, I am terrible with names, and I did practice these, I'm just terrible on names. And dismembered her body. Over the next 2 years, the brothers traveled around China and killed a total of 11 women. During the rampage, they used help from female accomplices and forced victims in their crimes. The brothers disposed of the bodies, burning them with sulfuric acid and flushing them down the toilet. Ew, gross. They were also known as to cannibalize their victims, which is still gross, having a particular taste for kidneys. Gross, 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 gross. Don't grow up, you have a kid. Anyway, after receiving a tip in 2004, the brothers the police entered the brothers' house in Haibi. We're just gonna go with that because I am not attempting to pronounce that name, and I'm already butchering some of these names up as it is, and I don't mean to. But anyway, discovered a collection of dismembered corpse body parts and stolen cash, cars, jewelry, and tools. The brothers were discovered to be part of pouring acid over dismembered corpse and being interrogated by police and confessed to a murder spree. In 2005, the Shin brothers and one of their female accomplices, Li Chonling, was sentenced to death. Number 10. I think this is the last one. I'm not sure. Yeah, coming in at number 10 as our last one. There are few cases in history that states that of sisters who collaborate, But with such instances, the story of Delfina and Marie de Jesus Gonzalez, known as the La Porquica Tantis. Sorry, Spanish and Portuguese. Still learning. But anyway, in 1950s and 60s, the sisters ran a large prostitution ring in Rancho El Angel near San Francisco del Region in Guanajuato, Mexico. To recruit the new prostitutes, the sisters would regularly place job advertisements in newspapers and kidnap those who responded. The victims were were then tortured, sold into sexual slavery, and often murdered, and of course kidnapped by the sisters. Most of the girls were force-fed drugs and became addicted. They were sold to madams at cheap prices and treated like prisoners. If the girls disobeyed, they became sick, got pregnant, or lost attractiveness, they would be murdered and buried at Rancho El Angel. The sisters often tortured the girls and gave them time to comply. In 1964, 3 victims of the Gonzalez sisters escaped and alerted authorities to the crimes. The police searched the grounds at El Rancho and discovered that the remains of 80 women, 11 men, and several fetuses. 6 sisters, really. But anyway, it was eventually revealed that the sisters were responsible for the deaths of many migrant workers and wealthy customers, in addition to their sex slaves. They briefly evaded police, and they were eventually captured and placed on trial for the murders. They were found guilty of their crimes and given a maximum sentence of 40 years in prison. Wait, how is that even possible? Foreign law, not the U.S. law. But anyway, Delfina died in prison while Maria is serving her sentence and disappeared. Served her sentence and disappeared. At their trial, it was revealed that a large number of people were connected with these crimes, including sisters Carmen and Marissa Louisa. Alright, that is it for today's episode. What 5 cases do you think I'm going to talk about based on this list? What cases shocked you? What cases do you want me to talk about? Let me know in the comments. Also, ring that bell, like, follow, and don't forget I have a Patreon and a merch shop you can go check out as well, and I will see y'all next time.